So I got a contact of a guy in Africa, and he said, look, come over and watch a crusade. So I just booked a plane, all right, in faith, jumped on there, didn't know the guy, got over there. I thought, I'm called, and, I'm trying to pump myself up. But really, I was just David in the sheep pen. I was Mr. Bean. And so I get over there, all right, and this is an encouragement to you, right? And so I get over there, and as I'm there, we're there this first day, and you wear a full suit over in Africa because that's the culture, right? And so we get over there. They take us into this tin shed roof. It's about 450 degrees in there. I'm sweating. Anyway, I got to meet some guys over there, saw what they did with crusades. I came back to Africa, and as I got back to Australia. Got Africa on my mind. So as I got back, things started to go pear-shaped. You may all remember the GFC and the crash that happened. And so we basically lost, for time I'll simplify it, but our $21 million worth of assets, basically, we were persecuted, all right, by this financial institution. It was unbelievable. But anyway, we lost everything. I ended up with in $500,000 debt, not owning anything, struggling to put food on the table over the next 2 years. And so I started to do some self-reflection. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm doing my assignment, but am I doing it God's way? And God spoke to me. He said, you're doing your assignment, but you're doing it your way. You're not doing your assignment my way. Something happens when you do God's assignment his way. I was doing it my way as far as how I was managing my money and what I was doing. And you start to read about this, and I started to study this, and here's something quite incredible that I want to share with you, some meaty scripture here. But in Genesis 18:16-19, Abraham was walking with the Lord, and the Lord said this to him. Listen to this very carefully. It's up on the screen there. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Now, what he is talking about there, let me paraphrase this. This is for every single person in this room. He is saying to Abraham, if with the assets I've given you, with the money I've given you, if you do it my way, you will become a blessed nation. You will create a nation on earth like a sheep nation, all right? I will bless you. I will honor you. Your nation will be great. Everything I've promised you will come to being if you do it my way. Now, you would look at that and you would say, oh, okay, that word just meaning right and just, we got to be righteous and justice. No. Get that out of your head for a minute. Those two words sum up about 12 hours of teaching in just those two words. The word righteousness or right there means tzedakah, okay? It doesn't just mean, okay, I'm going to be right with people, all right? It means a lot more than that. It's how you use your assets. And it ties up with the word generosity, all right? So if we think of the word righteousness as in, I've prayed the prayer of being made righteous with God, which is true. But in the context of many of the translations, righteousness and generosity interlocked. They cannot be separated. All right? This is kind of the umbrella I'm showing you. So if I was walking down the street and I walked over a beggar that was on the street, the Lord would look at me and go, he's not righteous because I've shown no generosity to that man. All right? Now go to the next slide, please. It sums up. The word tzedakah is commonly understood as charity or generosity and serves as a catch-all for biblical commandments designed to help bringing God's kingdom, his culture, into the world, into the marketplace. These are just a few of them, right? I'm just summarizing today. Gleaning, interest-free zones, forgiving loans, using our wealth to support the poor and needy, like I was talking about before, and tithing, all right? Now, I haven't got time to go into each of these, but I'll touch on one of them today. Now, you think tithing is, well, you may not, I don't know what's been taught, but most of my life I was taught tithing just means giving some money to the church, right? But God was teaching from the book of Genesis, from Abraham onwards, that, and again, I'm bringing it into present day language, that tithing isn't just about how you use your money to the church, it's how you use your money in your life. All right? So let's go to the next slide. This is what it means. There was back in the time, I'll say, I'm just summarising here. But what tithing was, it was on an agricultural system. And the first thing they would do, and I'm going to put it into money, okay, because they used their crops and everything. But the first 40th of what they owned would go to the pastor. That's the first thing. Now, we don't do it these days because pastors earn salaries from the church. But this was part of honouring the pastor, the 1/40th, right? Then the next 10% went to funding the church. Now, we all know about that 10%, true? Now, that 10% wasn't just on the principle of I'm giving my money to the church. They understood that if you funded the church, it was your spiritual covering in the marketplace. Does that make sense? 97% of you sitting in here aren't in full-time ministry like David and Tina. You're in the marketplace. And the reason we fund the church isn't because the pastor wants your money. We fund the church, being in the marketplace, because it's our spiritual covering. That's why we do it, right? The next tithe, which was Mesa Shinai, was all about, they would take, I'll put it in money sense, they'd take the next 10% and they would go out and have festivals. And if you were really a rich person, you would take off your jackets or your nice dresses and you would dress like someone that was poor, and it would create unity in the nation. This is what they did. And with the leftovers from the crop, what they would do is they would exchange it for silver. And you know what they did with that silver? They would pass it on to their children and their children's children. What is God doing here? Listen to this carefully. The last one, Mesa Anai tithe, was replaced the Mesa Shinai tithe every 3 years. And you know what that was primarily used for? Primarily? It was used to help the poor and the needy. Bring it into present day. Sex slavery, poverty, debauchery, prostitution. That's what the money was used for. All right? This is God's culture. He's saying, you do it, you take your wealth, and you do it my way. I will bless you. I will bring you honor. Exactly what he said in Isaiah 58 and Matthew 25. He says, you use that. This is what he imparted to Abraham, and Abraham passed it down. This is where it gets interesting. Exactly the same words he gave Abraham, he gave King David. He said to King David, David reigned over all of Israel, doing what was just and right. In other words, doing what was mishpat and tzedakah for all his people. Now, David passed that on to Solomon. This is what I want you to hear today, all right? This is really important. The Queen of Sheba had just visited Solomon, one of the wealthiest men in the world, the wealthiest man in the world. And she goes, I'm so impressed by you. I'm blown away by your wisdom. But you know why I'm blown away by your wisdom? Listen to what she says. She says in 2 Samuel 8:15, because the Lord loved Israel forever, he made you, Solomon, king to execute justice, which is mishpat, and righteousness, tzedakah. King Solomon changed the nation, the whole nation of Israel, doing exactly what he'd given Abraham, which was tzedakah and mishpat, or justice and righteousness. Now it gets better. Solomon was the first person on planet Earth to bring into the world God's kingdom, what I call a sheep nation, all right? And how did he do it? He built the temple, then he built infrastructure, he built the palace, the navy, the military, huge infrastructure. There ended up being no employment, no homelessness, no crime, no poverty, no prostitution. Everyone prospered because he did it God's way. He did his assignment God's way. Those two words that he spoke to Abraham about in Genesis is for who? Abraham's children's children. Are we his children? Yes or yes? Yes, we're his children. This is for us. And when I saw this and got revelation of this, it completely changed my life. He was the first person 3,000 years ago to create a sheep nation. And do you know what our vision is? Our vision is to create a sheep nation here in Australia, It's sheep nations in the South Pacific, sheep nations in Europe, sheep nations around the world. Now you go, well, that's great, but how are you going to do it? Well, you're part of the solution. There's 2.2 million businesses in Australia today. If we take 5 to 6% of those 2.2 million businesses, in other words, you and I, we get active in the marketplace, doing things God's way, all right, we will reach a tipping point, all right? It's about 150,000 businesses, right? We can change this nation. We can change this nation. Do you believe that? We can change it. With your assignment fitting into God's kingdom, where there's no unemployment, no homelessness, no poverty, no prostitution, and we all prosper. We can do this. And you say, why Australia? Well, Australia is the 12th largest economy in the world, the 6th most traded currency. We have sporting prowess. We have some of the strongest banking and financial institutions in the world. We're only 20 million people. All right? Now I've got a question for you. And I'll just say this factually. I'm not going to get into it. 3% of the population, right, which are made up of gays, were able to go and lobby governments around the world and change policy. 3%. We supposedly, as Christians, make up over 50% of this nation. So if that can be done with 3%, what can we do with 50 or 60%? It's time for us to stand up. It's time for us to take the kingdom out into the world. It's time. We have an opportunity for this time in history. God's been wanting to do this for thousands and thousands of years. He's done it once with Solomon. It's our time now. And the thing is, here's the interesting thing. When you look through the Bible, you see that God sent his prophets to warn us, when we weren't doing things his way. All right? Now you look through the Bible, when the woman was caught in the act of adultery, what did God say? He showed grace and love. Right? His love overflowed. But what happened when Jesus went into the temple and Babylon was operating in the temple? He grabbed a whip. He got sick of it and he ousted them out of the temple. What happens in the parable of the rich fool from Luke 12? He says, you know what, stupid? He goes, did you save up everything and you put it into your towers and everything, and then you just be merry in your old age? There's no retirement with God. He goes, you do that. If you're just storing up a nest egg and you're just going to play bingo and golf the rest of your life, the Lord says it, not me. He goes, you're a fool. There's no retirement in the Lord. Lazarus and the rich man. The rich man every day walked past the poor man. What happened? They died. The rich man and the poor man died on the same day. Poor man went to heaven, the rich man went to hell. My question to you, did the rich man go to hell because he was rich, and did the poor man go to heaven because he was poor? No, not at all. You know what? The rich man wasn't executing the gospel of the kingdom. There was that poor person. He just walked past him every day, showed no tzedakah. Does that make sense? He didn't show it. And God didn't ask the rich man, did you go to church and did you pray? He goes, you just walk past that poor man every day. It's exactly what he said in Matthew 25. Do you get it? And I know it's challenging, but it changed my life. It changed my life. Ananias and Sapphira is another great example. They're out there, they're giving to the poor, they're giving to the needy, they're doing everything, from Matthew 25, Isaiah 58. And one day they go, we're going to keep some stuff for ourselves. What happens? They're at a small group meeting and rock up to the door and they die. That's not a good small group meeting. The cultural context here is God does not tolerate Babylon operating in our lives. He wants to oust it from the church. He wants to oust it from the marketplace. And he has an assignment for each one of us to do that. I'm just warming up. All right. Okay, I just want to finish with this story. I had a lot more to share, but God's just giving me stuff as I share. Let me just finish with this story. I was broke. We didn't have money. I remember Simone was going into the Woolworths and everything, and she was saying, David, she'd ring me, go, the credit card just bounced. I just can't get this thing in, and I'm sweating. I'm like, really? I said, maybe ask the cashier for some money, do something. Right? And that type of things happening day after day. And we had at that time a small childcare business, and it wasn't doing too well. And God said to me, he said, start doing it my way. He said, you've been doing it your way. And to be honest, I haven't got time to share the stories. There was times where I was doing it my way, not God's way, with my money. You know, one day I committed to a man verbally that I'd do something and I didn't do it. Okay? And I broke covenant with him. I was doing it my way. All right? Just be honest. And I started to do things God's way. I started to be generous, like when I say overly generous. Simone and I started cooking stuff for the staff. We started taking in special needs kids to our centre that everyone else rejected. And then all of a sudden, over a period of about 2 to 3 months, sales picked up. And then I'm standing at the back of the childcare, and God gave me this vision about changing a strip, a 100-metre strip, okay, on the back of the childcare. And I said, it can't be done, Lord. I tried it with council. He said, go back to council, do it. I went back to council and did it. It went through. Within 2 months, the value of the childcare increased by $1 million. Right? I'm not saying this to big note me, I'm big noting God, right? Because I started to do it God's way. His favour started to rest upon me. As I started to do that, I understood a principle that I am a trustee of God's assets, not an owner of my own assets. All right? So I changed my attitude. I became a trustee. All these assets that I own are God's, they're not mine. So as I disperse of funds, or as I disperse of stuff, it's not me giving the money. I'm just a funnel for God, right? I'm a trustee of God. Now, if God gives me the $100 and I keep it, I've just stolen from God. God gave me that. That's what the Israelites believed. And he started to talk with me, and as that started to happen, and I'll finish with this story, I went to Africa and I started to do crusades, and I'm preaching over there, I'm doing this stuff. As I'm doing this, God's way, all right, God's way, not my way. He's providing the funds. Back in Australia, God's starting to knit deals together, all right? I had $50,000 that I owed this guy over there. And I owed $300,000 to a guy over there. I'm still trying to dig myself out. And this man over here had taken $50,000 of my money and he'd squandered it. He went and spent it on cars and bits and pieces. God goes to me. I go to God. I got to take that 50 and give it to this guy over there. And God said, "Do it my way." He said, "Forgive that man." I'm like, "I can't." He said, "Well, pray for him." And I started praying for him. You know how it says pray for your enemies? As I started to pray for, I prayed that he'd be run over and stuff, right? So, and I did pray that. I'll be honest. Whoops. And I forgave him. I went back to this guy and I said, "Sorry." I said, "I haven't got that money. I'm going to get it to you one day." You know what he says? He goes, "David, I forgive you of that debt. I love you and I forgive you." I just started weeping. I'm going, man, this is it. I'm starting to do it God's way. And so I get to Africa, and you see God starts to work in multiples, right? And so this is a story I want to finish with. And so I'm over in Africa, and they take me to this Islamic town, all right? It's 90 to 95% Islamic. They said, "You're going to go preach the gospel there." Never in the history of the town has the gospel been there. This is in the middle of Ethiopia. And as I get to the town, before I got to the town, I'm in Australia. A week before, 100 Christian businesses had been burnt to the ground because they knew I was coming. And I felt really bad. I was like, "God, do I go? This is causing friction. What do I do?" The people said, "Come." I went, "Okay, I'll go." And I remember saying goodbye to my family, not knowing if I was going to come back. You know how it says, "Take up your cross and follow him"? There's a cost when to your assignment, all right? And I remember my 7-year-old daughter at the time was crying and bawling her eyes out. I'm bawling my eyes out. It was like a scene from a movie. It wasn't good. And I left. I went over there. As I got over there, God said, "Put the 9-metre cross up in the field." Can you imagine that? I put it up in the field. I go out there. They're expecting about 200 or 300 people to come to this public meeting in a soccer stadium, right? I remember the first night. The guy hands me the microphone. And I've got bodyguards and there's people with machine guns standing around. And I go up and let me ask you a question. My heart was beating, it was pounding, there's people staring at me. Actually, can you go to the next slide? This is it here. They're expecting 200 to 300 people. On the last night, we had about 60,000. Yeah, glory to God. And so I'm there. And God says to me, you preach the gospel and do not deviate. Do not bring a sugar-coated message, preach the gospel. As we preach the gospel, one night a Muslim man, he came up and he puts his hands up in the air like this. He said, tonight I came here as a Muslim, but I leave as a follower of Jesus Christ. He has just completely healed me. He had this like deformed leg, it completely healed, right? And so all these healings, all this stuff is taking place, and I am sitting back watching. I'm not, I don't feel like I'm a part of this thing. I leave this town. Unbeknownst to me, someone had filmed the crusade. They took the footage into the capital city of Ethiopia. A TV station picked it up and said, we've never seen anything like that. They then decided to push that out across the Arab nations. Went out to 20 million people. All right? The footage of the gospel. Not of me, I was there, but of the gospel. As that happened, for the next 3-4 months, the pastors ring me from this town, said, never in the history of this town, 2,000-year history, has this happened. I said, what's happened? They said, we had 300 people saved at the crusade, which we were just over the moon about, but better than that, all the Muslims have been streaming into the church, and there's been 5,000 to 6,000 people saved over the last 3 to 4 months. There it was, God working in multiples again. All right? As I got back to Australia, I get a call from them saying, we want you to come back and speak into the government of that nation and do a crusade in the capital city. Right? And I just broke down crying, not because of anything other than I felt so incapable of what God had just done, and knew that God can work through anyone that puts their hand up and says, I'm going to do it. Right? As that started to happen, to close, everything started to come together. So then we started this business, and now we've got interests and companies. We've got merchant banking and developments, mining, childcare, new technology businesses. All this stuff has started to happen. Why? And just to summarize, if you can go back one slide. Yeah, that one there. You know, action your assignment. You do it God's way. Okay, and he starts to work in multiples. The favour starts to come, all right? And I just wanted to say to you in closing, you know, whether there's people here today, you doubt yourself or you don't think you can do it, I wanted to share that testimony today, not out of any pride, but just out of rawness, to say, I don't have it together. I love Jesus Christ, and I've just done it in honour and obedience to him. You do the same. We can take the gospel of the kingdom out into the Australia, out into the Pacific Islands and beyond, but it starts with us, okay? It starts with us. He'll immerse you in your favour, and you'll start to work in multiples, and your finances will grow because you're doing your assignment and you keyed in to the gospel of the kingdom. Amen? Amen.